What's up, guys? Tom here from PhilAndTomPlus.com. It's 8 o'clock, so we're a bit late tonight, but this is the Phil and Tom podcast, the number one Phil and Tom podcast in the world.
Hi everyone.
Hi everyone, it's Phil here.
So it's a Thursday night at 8 o'clock, and we're doing this podcast. And tonight, the subject, we do actually have a subject that we're going to kick off with anyway, and that is productivity. So, go ahead, Dad.
Well, I think in the beginning, one of the things that when you actually don't know what you're doing, you have no idea of what you're supposed to be productive on. And so my recollection of that was that when we first got started, there was a little video come down. It was like must have been one of the emails we were on, and the guy, I'm trying to think about what he said, but it was sort of related to productivity, and I think it was, it was sort of hitting on this thing that, people are trying to, they're in, I don't know, too many things, and my experience of that, I was on so many email lists, maybe, I think it might have even been 50 email lists, and
So did you do anything besides just look at email?
well, you got to imagine that I didn't even know what I was supposed to try to do. I had all these email lists, I was on all these emails, and basically I was frozen, or I didn't have any coaching, so I'm on all these email lists. I didn't know what I was doing. All I'm doing is spending money buying, what I thought
Might help.
And so that went on and on and on and on. I guess now, looking back on that, if I had somebody who said, look, a coach or a mentor, said, look, let's just sort of, it's like this guy, Stephen Covey, he's a famous author, and he wrote this book, Beginning with the End in Mind, and I always liked that type of thinking. But there was nobody that could actually explain what the end in mind was for the internet. It was all about, making money. It was all, you were basically mesmerised by the copywriting, and you were totally sucked into this idea of, getting a really quick result. And so you were just caught. It was just a total washing machine, and it's very difficult to break clear of that because the next bit of copywriting comes along, and then the next bit of copywriting, and the next bit of, don't have a coach, you don't know what the whole picture is.
You've got to be ruthless, though. You have to really be ruthless and sort of say to yourself, you've got to prioritise. You've got to say, okay, I'm going to spend 20 minutes, depending on how much time you got, I'm going to spend 20 minutes on emails because...
Yeah, but we didn't... Back then, we didn't know. We couldn't prioritize.
Yeah, I know.
We didn't know about emails. We didn't know about video marketing.
We didn't have any traffic.
It was literally it was like an ocean of traffic methods and business models, and we jumped in.
Yeah,
that's what it was like.
And then what happened? I'm thinking about that first time. I was up till 3 o'clock in the morning, and it all started because we started off with this Brett McFall thing. He's an Australian marketer, and we spent $3,000 to buy his course. And anyway, part of his course, I don't know, it sort of had this thing called PLR, private label rights, and I ended up on this site looking at private label rights, and I didn't even know what private label rights was. And then, you click on this, and you get to that, and then you click on that, and you get to this, and it just went on and on. It went on all night.
So for the people that are listening, what are PLR?
I just told you, private label rights.
What does that mean?
Private label rights is where, they sell you on this idea that, you don't have to sort of make a product, or you don't have to make an ebook, or you don't have to make a report. It's already done for you.
And you can put your name on it.
And I'm not knocking it as an idea, and, we have some private label rights stuff. Anyway, the moral to the story is by the end of the night, I'd probably spent $2,500. And really... that was, and that was, I think I was in 5 different business models, before I knew it. And I can remember the pain of that, and I go, oh my God, I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't want this, they want that, they want this, they want that. And so when you don't even know what you're doing and you're spending money on a hope, you have no coach, you have no mentor, and it was very clear that they didn't really want to, communicate with you. That was very hard. So I was sort of left with this excitement that one of these particular, I'll call it a business model, was going to, help us. And it was only in hindsight, looking back, that I can see, I can see how that's going to get people in. I can see how that's going to get people in. Yeah. So.
Well, I was making a webinar today talking about this exact thing.
Oh.
And the first thing that I talk about, and I just what you just said, telling that story, just makes me feel so good about what I was doing today, because we can help people so friggin' much. Just if we can just talk to them in some way. For example, the webinar.
Yeah.
Which is what we're doing on the weekend. And the first thing I said, I talk about three things. The first thing I talk about is mindset, and the first mindset thing I talk about is there's two things that are going to stop you in online business. There's two things. First of all, there's two things that are going to stop you from taking action and doing something. Number one is you don't know what you're doing, and number two is perfectionism / fear of failure. They're the two things that are going to stop you. So we can help people there. We can help people there because we can just first off say you got to forget perfectionism. You have to make mistakes and you have to fail forward. You're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's going to happen, so just accept it. That's the first thing. The next thing we talk about is business models. And imagine somebody saying this to us when we first started. You have to get a business model. And I went through a couple of business models. And I said one of them is like a business opportunity. A business opportunity, it's like a franchise model. It's like getting into McDonald's. It's like a business in a box. It's already done for you. So once you got that, you don't have to think about the offer. And then all you have to think about is the traffic. That's three things. Now, if somebody explained it to us like that when we first started, it would have been a hell of a lot easier than just going through and buying a million different things. And one thing I stressed in the webinar is you have to pick one business model when you first start, and you have to pick one traffic method. That's it. Now, if somebody just put the blinders on for us when we first started like that, now sure, we might not have known all the terms and stuff like that, and it might have been confusing. But if we had somebody saying, just focus on that for now, you don't need anything else because you're going to be overwhelmed, you're going to spend a lot of money, and you're just going to waste your time, that would have helped. And I feel good because now we can say that to somebody. That's going to really help.
Well, let's look at that. Okay, let's just pull that a little bit apart. What do they call it? We'll just pull that apart a bit. Now, so I agree with what you said, but the conundrum is the business model, because the business models out there are a dime a dozen. We're actually in a business model, right? Have a think. Let's talk about it. It was GRN, Global Resorts Network, was a business model.
Nobody ever said to us, just get in one. Use this. You don't need anything.
That's true, but the conundrum is, I would argue, I'd build an argument to say that people might say, I'm in this business model, or I'm in that business model. And I'm fairly parochial now that I've seen a lot of business models. And I'm basically, I'd have to say to a lot of people, look, I've seen a lot of business models and a lot of them are flawed. And you can work your ass off, but they're not going to get you far because their design is flawed. The GRN was flawed. The guy who ran the company ended up changing the whole design of it. Remember that? We spent all this money and we thought, okay, and that was a network marketing business model at the start. Now, we spent $3,000. Let's just follow your line of thinking, because it's a good line of thinking, but what if your business model's flawed? But they say that it's not, because they can, as a new person, they can easily...
Well, isn't every business model flawed?
Okay, to a degree, but this is the degrees. Now, let's talk about that business model. So we put the money on the table, and poor old naive us, we didn't understand that what drove the business model was what?
I don't know.
Selling on the phone. They did. They neglected to tell you that, didn't they? Oh, by the way, to actually make these big ticket commissions, guess what? You're going to have to learn to sell on the phone. Now, if they had told us that at the start, would we have got into that business model?
No.
I don't know if we would have. I don't know.
I reckon we would have.
Well, I don't know.
I reckon you would have said, well, I can sell them.
Well, maybe I could have, but just let's have a think about that. Now, then what happened was the guy that ran it basically changed the business model to this and that because he talked about the burden of training people, and then only 2 years later they changed it back. That's what happened to that business model. Then look at Carbon Copy Pro, that business model. You know, we talked to that guy Michael Force, and we sort of found out that there was issues with that particular business model, and it started off okay, but it really 18 months in for us, it was going nowhere basically. So this is an interesting thing with a business model. I mean, you know, people can get in a business model, but I guess the irony of it all, because I've been in maybe 5, 6, 7, 8 business models, maybe what I've learned is that, wow, that was never good. What about that guy who set off to he set off to start his own new business model? He told this whole story and we went with him, right? But it was so much work for him in the end, it killed him and he collapsed. And we spent quite a fair bit of money on and we backed a guy that in the end he said all the right things, but it was just too much.
Do you agree though? I understand where you're coming from, and I agree. Some business models are flawed. I think every business model's flawed. I think, and there's some that are better than others. But take yourself back to 2010, June 2010. We've just hit a year, and somebody says to us that
Get rid of
this
all
is
the
the
other
business
crap.
model that you use, whether it's flawed or not. This is the business model that you use. And this is the traffic that you use. Go ahead. Learn that, do that. Don't do anything else. Would we have progressed much faster? Even if the business model was flawed, would we have learned something about traffic and something?
Well, I guess the answer is possibly, but the thing is that I can remember we got that first bit of coaching, and when I look back to that coaching, it was okay. And that particular coach critiqued this and critiqued that and recommended this and recommended that.
Oh, what coaching are you talking about?
Our very first little coaching expose. I sent the coach an email and they said, oh, you know, get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of this, get rid of that. And I thought, well, okay, so that was helpful, but really still that particular coach didn't really know at that time. You know, they didn't have the full answer. It's only now, after a couple of years, that I feel fairly confident to sort of say, look, now that I've seen all these business models, there's quite a few issues in there, and a lot of them are limited. And these are the design features that I've seen. So the one way to look at it is you can have a car. You know, there's you might have in Australia we have maybe it's a Camry. You know, there's a Camry, but you might have a Porsche, and they're both cars, but they're designed. They have different design features, and one will outperform the other in speed, in endurance, etc. And it's just because of the design of it. There's just been more effort and more thought put into the design. So that's been good for us. Indirectly, you know, here I am whinging about, you know, being on all these lists, getting in all these business models, and it was a fair price to pay, but in the end, you know, what you learn hardest, you teach best. So I've learned that hard. And so maybe I'm a bit parochial on business models. So, well, that business model there, I know I could rattle off a few. I could go, well, that's, you know, it's okay. It's okay. Maybe it's a good place to start, but it's limited. You know, it's not gonna get you all the way. It might get you a start, but it won't get you all the way. So it's an interesting topic, you know, when you look at that, this issue of picking a business model. So we were going to talk about this issue of productivity. And, you know, my thought on productivity is, I don't know, I feel it's a simple thing. I basically tried to start on just putting aside a couple of hours in a block of 2 hours, just to start. And then to try to get some continuity with that sort of time. So I actually started getting up early in the morning, 5 o'clock. And I found that I was able to, I went to bed early, that's right, went to bed early and got up early. and that was very helpful to me because I found that I could, even though I didn't know what I was doing, I was learning hard. I was learning the hard way by putting in, I don't know, maybe it's 3, 4, maybe 5. So there's there it is there. Maybe it was 5 to 10 hours a week. If I had had a coach back then, someone I could have reached out to and spoke to on Skype, for example, somebody that I trusted and somebody I knew was further down the track and could communicate simply. See, that's another thing. Some of the people that we've been involved with, it's almost like they can't explain things simply because maybe they're too scared. You know what it is? I think I've encountered this a few times. They're too scared to say it's going to take some time because everybody's so needy out there wanting to have this $10,000 per month next month. And maybe that exists somewhere. But even if that did happen, you're not going to be able to sustain it. It's just not a common sense thing that happens in the world in life. So I reckon we encountered that a few times. Some of the coaches we have were too scared to actually say, look, let me just tell you something. You're green, you're new, this is exactly where you're at. On a scale of 1 to 10, you're at a 3. You won't be making $2,000 a month next month. Because I remember one coaching session we had where they said, I asked, so does that mean we'll be making $2,000 a month? Oh yeah, real soon. We were nowhere near it. Nowhere near. It was a Grand Canyon away. They didn't even know what they were doing in the end. It was only through this experience that we had did we find out they didn't even know what they were doing, basically. So I find that anybody that gets involved with us, that we're going to tell it to them pretty straight.
I like that.
And we're not going to wind them up. And we can sort of, like say for example, now we can say, well, we've made over 100 sales, say, so we've got that experience. We've made over $10,000, online. So we've gone from $1 to $10, to the 100, to the 1,000, to the 1,000 in one hit. And I always liked that thinking. It always made sense to me. Now gone over the 10,000, and so that means that we're positioned, and that's a great word. Underline that in a business model, positioned where our profits can double quickly. But if you don't have the positioning, so in a sense, we're sort of, we've done, have a think about our first video, first 10 videos, first 100 videos. We're on the way to 500 videos. And so there's been a lot of progress in terms of being able to, and we tend to, I don't think we take it for granted, but we do those things with our hands tied behind our back now. But we started where? At 0. 17 takes on a video. My God. And we didn't, and we made a video the other day about the things that you didn't even know what a lead was. I didn't know what getting to the other side meant, stuff like that. So we were just totally green. So how are we going here with this issue? We've talked about business models and productivity.
Probably still got another 5 minutes.
Sorry?
Probably still got another 5 minutes.
Right. Oh, well, we don't have to talk just for the sake of it, but how do you think we're going in terms of, if a new person was listening to this?
I feel really good about I feel really good in terms of productivity. One of the reasons you're not productive and you don't get anything done is because you don't know what you're doing.
Yeah,
right?
It has to be. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
So I feel good about if somebody comes to us, like you just said, we're going to give it to them straight. Yeah. We're going to say you have to build some skills. It's going to take some time. Going to take some effort.
Yeah.
And
nothing you can't do.
And I feel good. Saying where to start. You have to start doing these little skills.
Yeah, sure.
Because it simplifies it, and what happens in the industry is they give you the spiel of if you do this and this, and they kind of make like traffic seem easy.
Yeah.
Which is not. That's ridiculous. I mean, when you don't, you've never done traffic before, it's not easy.
But they make everything sound easy,
and that's what I hate. That's what I
they make everything
hate that.
But you know what? Especially if you do something like if it's new and you haven't done it before. Besides from the fact that it's complicated, you've got to learn it and everything else like that. With everything else that's going on, right, and you trying to fit it in, it can be overwhelming, can't it?
Oh, very overwhelming. Absolutely overwhelming. Crushing.
Yeah, and I was talking to Tom today, and my favourite saying that...
Can I just stop, Mum? that could be blocking the mic. I just don't know. Can you please shut it?
I just
Why
wanted
does
to
she have
read.
it like that?
I just
I don't
wanted
know.
to.
Can you just-
Can I just wanted to read my?
Go ahead.
That which we persist in doing.
Because I can. Yeah.
No, go on, read it.
Go ahead. You said it today. Go ahead.
That which we persist in doing becomes easier to do, not that the nature of the thing has changed, but that our power to do it has changed. And that happens with everything,
It
every
does.
new
Just like
thing in
what
this
Dad
business.
just said with the videos is true. Okay, it is true. But I want to know. Well, I know why, but why hasn't anybody just said at the start? It's going to be frustrating as fuck. It's going to drive you up the wall.
Well, if
But,
you
and that's. Why don't they tell you that? Why don't they tell you the truth? Why don't they just tell you the truth?
Because they won't attract the
Hate
people.
that.
They won't attract the people. And you've got to remember that.
I disagree. I disagree with
Oh.
that because what are we going to tell the truth?
I think so. I think that. I think I said on that video the other day, I get bored with short-term thinking. I think, look, if you want to make money online, just go and get a part-time job. But that's not what we represent. Is the idea of how do you become wealthy? And so it's about the idea of making a lot of money, putting a business model in place. And yes, you are going to attract some people who are going to be here one day and gone the next. That's true.
that's
but-
the nature of the business.
Yeah, but what you're looking for, the thing that resonates with me is fundamental business skills. If you are going to start a business, any business, doesn't matter whether it's offline or online, the question you ask yourself is, the thing you're going to find is it's not easy to find good people. It doesn't matter what business it is. And so that's one of the key things. In our business, we're looking for good people to partner with. Why? Well, we profit. We profit if we can help somebody become successful. We get 5% of their turnover. That's part of it. One of the things. So that's like any business. Like, you get paid a percentage of the turnover of the success of that business. And I'm talking just direct sales here. I'm not talking multi-level market. I'm just talking standard business procedure is to identify good people. So we're looking for good people. We're looking for, a couple of good people. And, what's our goal is to show them the fundamentals of getting some leads and which is traffic, and making their first dollar, $10, $100, $1,000.
So for the new person to be productive, I suppose it comes down to how you're mentally geared, which side of the brain, left or right or whatever else like that. To me, I couldn't operate without my list, like my list of what I have to do every day,
Sure.
and like when you put a new thing on it or you put two new things on it, you think, I'm never going to get this done. And by the time you learn it, like we were talking, same thing, when you've learnt it, you think, why did I make such a big deal out of that? It wasn't whatever. So for a new person, you're talking about on the webinar today, 5 minutes of personal development. If you've got the time, do 20. If you haven't got the time, do 5. But if you write a list, might be 3 things on the list. Some people might have the time to do 5 things.
If we're talking about productivity when people are just starting, I personally think the absolute number one key is focus. And I'm talking, and I just keep saying that same thing: business model, and one business model, like one thing to promote and one thing to work on, traffic. That's it. That's it. Now, and you're not going to get past the frustration or the overwhelm, even if you do focus that.
No, you will still have to go through that.
You will progress so much faster because you're not just sitting around buying crap and being in 10 million different business models.
Yeah, so the thing there is for people, what's the most productive thing they could do in the next 30 days? The most productive thing I believe anybody could do is just getting started, is get some knowledge. Now, you go, where do you get some knowledge? What did we do? We bought a product. That's what we did. We bought a product. And so from that product, we invested. And so from that investment, we learned. And then when you learn something, you try to apply it. You do. Learn, do. And now we're in the position where we're teaching. So we've learned stuff, we've done stuff, and now we're teaching. What did we do? We invested. You know, we learn. Is this what we did? We did things, and then now we teach it. So you know, we put a lot of free stuff on our website. People could just they could spend the next month going through all that pretty well, and they're going to pick up a bit of a gist of what's going on. And then we have products. Well, how does it work? We have a $10 product. It's an ebook. They could spend 30 days just on that, and they would learn a shitload just on that ebook, as we did. Then if they wanted to, they could progress to a $50 product, and which is what we call our 21 steps, basically, isn't it? And then that's exactly what we did. That didn't exist when we started, but we went from that ebook to a business in a box, essentially. So, I would recommend that to anybody, basically. So that's where I believe they're a new person's productivity. Now, if they're already in that and they've already bought those sorts of products, then it comes down to maybe you could think of a couple of things. You say, well, how are you promoting your business today? How are you promoting it? Because in the end, that's about getting sales. Like Janine was on, she sent an email down to this special list that we've got, and she got a sale. So what did she do? She promoted a product on an email, and somebody bought. So that's it. She promoted, and there was a sale. And then we've followed up. We've now followed up with that sale and communicated with that person. So can you see that you're not going to get a sale unless you know how to promote? And how did we do that? We did that. We invested in some education, learnt, did it, and taught. How are we going here, Tom?
We're done.
Right.
So, if you have any comments just put them in the comment section below, and we'll answer any questions that you have. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, see you later, everybody. Hope you got something out of that, and we'll see you on another podcast.
Evening.